I think that's the worst thing that anyone's ever said to me.
Considering that Roblox is meant for kids, because, like, obviously,
What's up?
this game wasn't exactly meant to be scary or created for horror purposes, and you'd be right. However, that doesn't mean there haven't been some serious attempts to make good and effective horror games. Nowadays, finding an even halfway decent horror game is almost impossible. Thanks to Roblox giving developers more money / Robux, the longer somebody stays with a premium membership, almost every horror game now you'll find is just the cheapest cash grab with zero effort, being utter slop. Some of the worst I've ever seen on the internet in a while. Similar to the ARG video, I'm going to talk about a range of quality, but this video is mainly focused on the bad. At least I thought, but then the more I wrote, the more it split down the middle. But anyway.
Sorry, my dad.
I'm going to start off here with a good note. This Floors Have Teeth game is honestly really well made, and not just a horror game. Like a lot of games on here, there seems to be a general style of the PS1 era from like puppet combo games I mentioned in the last video. Corey keeps screaming over. But beyond the surface of this being just a possible generic PS1 game for Roblox, there's going to be a lot of energy put into this project. There are fully animated, very well might I add, cutscenes, as well as just the atmosphere being spot on. Despite it being on Roblox, moving around in the game does feel very claustrophobic, and my friends and I got very unnerved and uncomfortable. One of them even screamed, but I wasn't recording for audio. But the ambience and the attention to detail with the general setting and environment is a good change of pace from what I'm used to seeing on here. Surprised that there was some games stuff on here that was even allowed for this game. Maybe I just missed some sort of intel or notebook, but the only threats, which were nicely designed, were like 3 huge tall dudes with weapons and a really gross boss at the end. I'll repeat this, the actual design of all these dudes were awesome. I really liked them. They were simple and effective within the general story and setting of the game. The boss at the end was extremely unexpected, but a welcome surprise. It says that Chapter 2 is coming, but I'm not exactly sure, but I hope to God it does.
I tried to sneak through the door, man. Can't make it. The shit's stuck. Out of my way, son!
Doors is a very entertaining and unique game that I'm aware of, that has obviously been milked to hell. Wow, what a start. I will give the creators credit though. They have continued to focus on improving their game throughout the years and haven't tried to make it like some sort of universal continuous series that I'm aware of course. But the player is tasked with an endless tunnel of doors that doesn't seem to stop, but as the player keeps going through these doors, the more monsters appear. That's the involvement of about boss fights every 20 to 30 minutes. It helps keeps the game's pace fluid and never really stalls. The majority of these clinical levels is actually just moving across a door, moving across a room to another door. It's not extremely hard when it first starts, with like a couple keys or something you have to find. But in my complete and honest lost opinion, this is the best horror experience of modern Roblox. It has amazing animations, designs, really good game flow, and is an overall addicting, fun playthrough every time I play. There's just seriously so much to talk about this game. First off, need to mention how amazing the monster designs are for everything. Almost every monster is recognizable by just their outline, and other than a few monsters within the same category, every monster is extremely simple, but iconic. I like to use that term a lot in this video. But anyway, a lot of monsters in this game are one hit, which includes the bosses. The figure and its boss fight is pretty cool, to be honest. The 2 boss fights in this first section, something I was pleasantly surprised by. They were both really intense, despite being the complete opposite in terms of objective. It almost felt like I was on the edge of my seat for both. I don't know the name of the dude, but the black, goopy sprinter dude. The player has to try and run through several rooms while avoiding debris and getting stuck. It's very fast, and you have to be hyper aware of all your surroundings, or else you're gonna actually bite it. The figure, like the other tall dude with like a ribcage showing out in the weird face, is blind but can hear an ant's fart and will freak out. To get through this area, you have to sneak through the library and collect a certain amount of books that have symbols on them, moon symbols. Very distinct and creative encounters, but as I said, different in each of their ways. One lesson I need to mention about this game is the items that are given to the player throughout. Yeah, sure, limited items are basically given when it comes to horror as a medium as a whole. However, it's just so odd how these items never seem to feel so plentiful, but also never so scarce at the same time. As the players constantly supplied with support items like batteries and band-aids to help on a lower scale, but never outright win gimmicks like a giant flashlight or a med kit that heals you. Never been exactly scared while playing this game. Then a few times I've been startled. However, I can say this game effectively makes me feel tense and on edge, which is, I feel, what a horror game should strive to begin with.
First we mine, then we craft. Let's Minecraft!
This shit is garbage and a genuine confusing mess of anger that I felt after playing this. Like, it's so obvious that there's potential for a genuinely fun and entertaining game, but like, it's just so half-assed that it makes me actually angry. Restrict Dad is an obvious kind of, I need to spend this much time as possible kind of game to obtain the most amount of Robux kind of game. And on top of that, the game's difficulty leads to the most obnoxious, unfair shit I've ever played. The enemy/dad in this game is a fucking one-shot, and the survival aspects, aka being the three sections, the health, hunger, energy, get drained so fast it's fucking unfair. That death is almost an absolute guarantee. Guess what? This game allows for revives. Unlike, good games that allow for revives that only allow for like once, this game allows for unlimited revives, and also it's such a low price that makes it tempting to buy almost every time. So basically, it's an unlimited money pool. There are several chapters and game modes that I ain't even gonna lie, Chief. I only played the first 3 chapters and one of the game modes. Never before have I seriously been so meh playing a game until I played this first chapter. It has so much minor moments of just waiting around and allowing for like 3 to 5 minutes to go by before I even get to the actual meat and gameplay of the chapter, which even then takes ages to progress. The player has to watch out for Strict Dad and make sure I don't die from him or any type of survival. Chapter 2 and 3, I'll end it was my first attempt because they were fucking no. Chapter 2 had the player in a basement creating potions to chuck at Dad, but I died at a loss of oxygen within the first 3 minutes, so I just said no thanks. And Chapter 3 had my ass try and stock up 50 items of gas, food, and water on my own, which getting one was already a headache, but getting 50 made me almost quit right then and there. The main chunk of this chapter trying to take place on a boat, and I was like, hell no. And I'm not going to just like, no. This game could just easily go eat my ass clean because, as I said, no. Just it all made my legit ass and made me want to transfer over to another game. Last thing I played was a simple Become the Dad game mode. It was fun because of the fact I could place down bear traps, but that's it. That's the only positive thing about this game right now. Fucking bear traps.
We've got to have money.
Fuck the series and anybody that was in charge of making it. This is the biggest waste of time and effort imaginable. The midnight series of horror experiences on Roblox might as well just be called experiences with how fucking sloppy garbage this shit is. Just loading into the game, the player is already met with a barrage of annoying microtransactions and shit that completely clutters my goddamn screen. When the player actually starts this quote-unquote experience, it's just, again, an unenjoyable, annoying slog. Almost every game follows the exact formula to a T. Player enters work, player does the job, player finds something because some customer, random dude, mentions some mysterious person lurking around. Mysterious person appears, and then the player can either run or die. And that's it. It never changes from that. Like, ever. What makes it even worse is that the entire room is covered in awful items that are just useless microtransactions for like $500 to buy a gun for a quote-unquote secret ending, which I bet is like nearly the exact same, if like maybe like a little bit different, but for 500 Robux. With everything in this game taking 10 times longer than it has any God-given right to take, these games are a serious bore. Which makes sense considering this game was made for those premium payouts for maximum playtime. It's horrendous. There's no effort, and it's a genuine insult to players that have to play this and were offered this. I don't have much else to say for this video other than horror on Roblox is something else, man. It can either be a brilliant work of passion or the most abysmal shit I've ever played or seen. Either way, there needs to be more games like Doors. And I meant that in terms of the kind of love for their games, and not Doors clones. Horror isn't going in on Roblox, but I certainly hope it improves.